July 22nd, 2025. This episode of HOA Today is brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a smart property system software HOA inspection service that is a company that provides all those things and gives you a framework for understanding the context, the historical context of your property through contracts, through assets, through invoices, through rules. These are complexities that happen in HOA, specifically condos, homeowner associations, property associations, where the shared management is not so obvious and involves the residents there. So it is a very good system. We've had great reviews, people who've said, understand the value. And if you're an HOA, if you're in a condo association, if you're having trouble, understanding the information or even distributing the information, I think this is what people have found value in, is how we distribute information, how we manage that. So it's really a good system. And if you are interested, or if you need any help with managing or being an owner within an HOA or a condo, please reach out to Zayuk. You can reach out to me as well, and we can speak about what issues you have and how our system, our inspection service, the assets, or the deliverables that we give you, how they can help you and your community manage your property. So with that, we'll go into some local happenings today in HOA. So homeowner association. So here from yahoo.com by Kristen Carr, quote, homeowner stunned after discovering dangerous issue with recent HOA project. Quote, the bedroom can't be used, unquote. On Reddit, many people who really, Reddit is a huge place where people who don't like their HOA, there's like, subreddit FUCK HOA. It's or something like that, So here's, quote, a homeowner posted photos that their HOA blocked of a window in their home that their HOA blocked when it installed the rain gutter during an exterior refurbishment. Unable to open the window. That's not good. 2 different subcontractors blocking outward opening window. HOA was not being cooperative and stated it could not move the gutter. HOAs are frequently complained about with regard to being overly controlling. Well, the issue here might have been the vendor. So again, I like to check these out and then speak about how Zayuk can actually help. So there were 2 subcontractors, so you don't know the coordination between the work, and obviously that is not up to code. And sure, it is a rain gutter, but the way it's being installed, how it's being installed, it needs to be recorded. And so you can make sure in how you write contracts and record contracts, and how you write work orders, and keep the work orders to the contract, as well as have a area to invite your vendors onto the app so that they can document their work. And you can be sure that you're getting what you paid for and that it's up to code, because depending on how serious this, if it isn't up, so let's continue. The OP said, quote, the OP said they are trying to be understanding about their window being blocked, but that as time passes, it becomes more difficult to do so. Well, that is that's a serious issue. I mean, let's see, where is this? Depending on where that lies, which state this is in. This doesn't necessarily tell me which state this is in. But let's say this is in California. So I'm Googling. You have to review your HOA documents, review the architectural guidelines, the CCRs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Check if the HOA had the right to install the gutters in that area. Submit a formal complaint or request for removal or modification. Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, so here we go by various states. So by state, California, HOAs must act in good faith and avoid capricious actions. Arbitrary or capricious actions. That's according to the Davis-Sterling Act. And capricious means given to sudden changes of mood or behavior. That makes sense. Next, blocking a window without necessity could be seen as unreasonable. I mean, it seems unreasonable. You'd have to determine it in various contexts and with the law. And there's no legal advice being given here. Texas HOAs have strong power, but residents also have recourse via state property code. If the action blocks light or constitutes a nuisance, the resident could claim constructive trespass. Florida law requires HOAs to provide reasonable notice. A lot of issue here, too, is that people allow things to just occur, and then afterwards it becomes really apparent how big of a deal that was, and it's very difficult. And so, again, this is another thing where Zayuk is, in the coming months with our digital twin, when we bring that up, we're going to be looking to help with that, but it's difficult, and I think a huge part of it is coordination, information distribution, understanding, especially by the vendor, having the vendor making sure they understand the statement of work, because they can easily move away from the statement of work. Colorado HOAs are governed by Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act. Arizona residents can file a petition with the Department of Real Estate. New York, co-ops and condos, rather than HOAs, are more common, but similar rules apply. Residents may appeal to the board and then take legal action. So that is a big issue. Let's continue. This is an interesting article by Newsweek. Quote, Florida condo prices plunge in multiple cities. Introduced reform to offering relief to owners and associations. Down 6.1% year over year. Nearly double the one reported in single family market. New safety regulations in the wake of the tragic Surfside collapse. Regular inspections on aging buildings and set aside necessary funds to pay for crucial repairs. structural inspections, reserve funding requirements, added complexity for older buildings. Develop a plan to save for routine maintenance. So there was a law by December 31st, 2024. So, I mean, reserves inspections are very important. And Zayuk's reality capture inspection also doubles as their reserves inspection. So we integrate and optimize, enhance your reserves inspection by creating a reality capture and integrating that reality capture with your finance software, your collection software, your work order software, your invoicing software, and that's where it's really powerful. And this is a Web3. When people talk about Web3, this is what I think about, because a lot of people look into the virtual world and think of just video games or something like that, maybe like World of Warcraft type of, or I don't know, Diablo. I really don't know. I don't know much about video games, but when I think of Web3, I think of it in terms of the real world. I think of it in terms of, bringing digital twins to reality and then organizing the financial mechanisms across those through some sort of AR, VR system. That makes more sense to me than living in a virtual world where NFT, these whatever NFTs rule the world. When I think of an NFT, I think of transacting off of a water heater across 400 different residents who have ownership within that property. How do you organize that? I mean, there's a collection system across those people that's defined by a set of governance rules and a set of assessments that are determined by the needs of the association, which is determined by laws and property hygiene and what the state of that association is, what the values of the association is, what again the laws are, and that is not a very simple process. And so when we talk about AI, having a proper historical context is really important. And we do that through our ledger systems and through the visual context that AI needs to understand the structure and the structural integrity of your property. In order for an artificial intelligence to understand the structural intelligence of your property, it needs a visual context. And these new technologies like NVIDIA, they bring digital twins with various types of photo construction software, photogrammetry, and this builds a context for AI to understand depth, for that depth to be applied to a vendor. So a vendor can now see what your property looks like without having to be at your property. They know how much, say, cement they'll have to pour into a certain area, how based off of the dimensions that your digital twin gets you. So you don't need to bring out 400, sorry, that's way too many, 4 different vendors out to your property. Instead, you can give them a dimension, a survey grade level model where they can plan out, they can look at the context of the issue, they can determine what the dimensions are, they can create a proposal based off of that, and it's much simpler than, so when we say vision context, it's again good for AI, but also good for humans. We're visual creatures. So I'll continue. This is by the Kansas City Star. Quote, KC area HOA fears subdivision of $1 million homes would hurt property values, unquote. This was written by Alicia Taylor. Parkville homeowners banding together to oppose a development that would bring new $1 million homes to their backyard. Around 50 single-family homes near 11,900 North Crooked Road in Platte County, dubbed the Hills at the National, would sit on 49 acres of land right behind the National subdivision, a luxury neighborhood with 400 homes near a golf course of the same name. Sell from $500,000 to $2 million based off of Zillow data. So let me continue. That article ended, but there might be more. Okay, here on yahoo.com, excuse me. It's available. The Hills at the National purchased the property from Clay Bear from Prime Development, purchased the property from the new subdivision at an auction, undisclosed amount. Subdivisions such as Canyon Creek, homes ranging in size, some smaller, some larger. Yes. Pushback, of course. How does it enhance the community? Quote, Locke said, many HOA members feel that they haven't received adequate information about or a true vision of what the new subdivision would look like, unquote. So that is a digital twin right there. You would want to actually take a survey of that area, or to at least inspect the area to get a reality capture of the area, and then create, a bunch of, bring in whatever architect is using it. I mean, SIUC doesn't handle new construction, so we don't really know. But again, a digital twin would help that for those users. Lackey said the proposed development is probably an ideal development. Preserve more than 50% of the property's greenery. I'd be curious to know if that includes the golf course, because even though the golf course is greenery, it's still a huge toll on the environment. Next steps. Be part of the national neighborhood, or at least to be able to share the use of some resources. Very difficult, but very good too. I mean, if you've ever gone to a country with poor zoning laws, people complain about America's zoning laws, and there are ways that it could be enhanced, but when there's absolutely zero control, it can be a huge issue and really devastating. Not devastating in the sense of what the whole city looks like. It can be a lot to handle, and it's not optimal for the city. So this is from the Wellville Sun. Wellville Property Owners Association deadline to contest new property assessments is July 31. Quote, was your property in the town of Wellsville recently reassessed at a level you would describe as excessive or unfair? Did you file grievance form with the town assessor? Unquote. So Wellsville, let's find out where Wellsville is. That's in New York. That makes sense because it seemed as though New York had fairly different property laws than the rest of the nation. So it looks, quote, a group of property owners have joined together to help each other use the legal channels available to seek a fair and accurate assessment. Many in this group in the Willsville Property Owners Association have gone through the entire process so far. We have visited the assessor for an informal meeting. So, unquote. It looks like these homeowners actually had to form an association in order to dispute assessments from the town, which is very interesting. And this goes to what we spoke about a few days ago, which is where does that line stand? And when we say that, we were speaking in terms of Hawaiian brush around HOAs and how the county or the city would manage that brush and whose responsibility was that? Is that the HOA's responsibility or the city's responsibility? But the reality is you just don't want that brush there as an HOA. If that's your home, you will suffer the most by far. And that brush needs to be taken care of. It needs to be removed, whether you bring in goats, whether you do it the traditional way, or you have traditional, which are the goats, and then you have traditional, which is just cut it down. But where does that line stand between towns? I believe Wellsville is in New York, so it seems that New York property laws regarding HOAs are fairly different than California. I'd actually be interested to I'm gonna So how are New York HOA laws different than the rest of the country? Different or less? What is it? Yeah, I think that's it. That's good. Structure, governance, and legal interpretation, largely because condominiums and cooperatives dominate. Here's a breakdown. In most U.S. states, HOAs typically govern single-family home communities. In New York co-ops, condos are far more common than planned HOAs. I mean, yeah. Townhomes also. So I guess HOAs, when people think of HOAs, they single family home communities in most US states. But in urban areas, that's not the case. Far more planned HOAs. And this comes into the huge difference I also always speak about is if you share walls, if you share electricity is easy to divide, but plumbing, water heaters, roofs, walls. Once you share those things, it becomes the management of all of that property is much more complex because when it's a single family home, it's this is my structure, that's your structure, this is my lot, that's your lot. We might have to organize on things like landscaping, on drainage, on security, on government encroachment if you're like Wellsville, where you feel that the town is excessively assessing you and they have management of your assessments rather than having a property association. So it's all compartmentalized government to some degree. All right, let's go. By Destiny Goad, quote, HOA Q&A, what is a statutory inquiry request from a homeowner? And this is Florida. Answer, pursuant to section 718.112 2A2, when a unit owner of a residential condominium submits a written inquiry to the Board of Administration by certified mail, the board is required to issue a response within 30 days of its receipt. Provide a substantive response to the inquiry or notify owner that a legal opinion has been requested. Within 10 days, the association must provide a substantive written response. If legal opinion is requested, the board must issue its response within 60 days. Precluded. If the board fails to provide a timely and substantive response, shall be precluded from recovering attorney's fees and costs in any subsequent litigation. Authorizes the association through action of its Board of Administrations to adopt reasonable rules governing frequency and manner in which unit owners' inquiries are addressed. Such rules may include the express limitation that the association is only obligated to respond to one inquiry per unit any given 30-day period. So communication. It's very important. It's very important. So this, I'll go for a break and talk about, again, Zayuk. I've brought it up multiple times. Zayuk is an HOA management system, smart property system. Currently, our tool is for real estate. HOA will be moving to another form, but if you live in an HOA, if you don't know about what's going on across work orders and contracts, or you're on a board or you're a manager and you need help, our smart property system gives you an way to easily communicate and easily distribute information, manage your vendors, manage your contracts, manage your collection system, and also in the coming months to years, bringing out some what we'll see to be some really interesting products, specifically around AI, around 3D modeling, around one thing that we're bringing is the private blockchain, the private distributed ledger, and it's a traversal system for AI, and it's based off of what I've seen. It's an interesting way to view your data and a really novel way to view the history across your assets, across your work orders, across various rules, which when you're living under a set of rules and when you're governing by a set of rules, you want to know the history of what's going on, and you want to see that history across work orders. And so we bring that to communities, and we're expanding. We're going to move past HOAs soon, and I'm excited for that. But right now, our product is focused on HOAs. If you live in an HOA, please consider reaching out to me if you're having problems of any sort, and we'll see what we can do. All right.